Hello YouTube. Today we'll be sharing a tragic story that left an indelible mark on the world, a day of loss, courage, and remembrance. On September 11, 2001, a series of terrorist attacks changed the United States and the world forever. These attacks, planned by the extremist group Al-Qaeda, targeted major landmarks in the US, resulting in nearly 3,000 deaths and starting a new chapter in global history. The day became known as 9/11. On the morning of September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes. The first attack occurred at 8:46 a.m. when American Airlines Flight 11, a plane flying from Boston to Los Angeles, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. Just 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175, also traveling from Boston to Los Angeles, crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. While this was happening in New York, another plane, American Airlines Flight 77, was hijacked. At 9:37 a.m., this plane crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. The crash caused a huge explosion, killing 125 people inside the building and all 64 people on board the plane. The fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was also heading from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco. The passengers on Flight 93, after learning about the other attacks, tried to fight back against the hijackers. In the struggle, the plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m., killing all 44 people on board. The attacks caused panic and confusion across the country. Emergency responders, including firefighters, police officers, and medical teams, rushed to the scenes of the crashes. In New York City, people ran through the streets in terror, and many watched as the towers of the World Trade Center burned. Tragically, at 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed, followed by the North Tower at 10:28 a.m. Thousands of people were killed in the buildings or trapped in the rubble. The rescue teams, unaware of how much danger they were in, worked to save people, but many would not survive. Across the U.S., airports were shut down and airspace was closed. The government, led by President George W. Bush, declared a state of emergency and began to respond to the attacks. Military and law enforcement agencies worked to identify the attackers and prevent further violence. The 9/11 attacks had far-reaching consequences both in the US and around the world. President Bush promised to find and punish those responsible for the attacks. This led to the start of the War on Terror, which included military action in Afghanistan, where the Taliban government was hiding Al-Qaeda members, including the group's leader Osama bin Laden. The US also made significant changes to its policies. The Patriot Act was passed in 2001, giving the government new powers to investigate and prevent terrorist activities. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, was created to improve airport security, and a new Department of Homeland Security was formed to oversee efforts to protect the country from future attacks. The attacks also changed U.S. foreign policy. The U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, believing that Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein, was connected to terrorist groups, although this claim was later questioned. The war in Iraq and the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan would continue for years, leading to many casualties and creating a complicated situation in the Middle East. For many, 9/11 was not just a day of tragic loss, but also one of great courage. The people who responded to the attacks, such as firefighters, police officers, and paramedics, became heroes as they risked their lives to help others. However, the emotional impact on the survivors, the families of victims, and first responders was devastating. In the years after 9/11, there was also an increase in discrimination against Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, and people from Middle Eastern backgrounds. The fear of terrorism led to prejudice and suspicion, and many innocent people faced unfair treatment because of their religion or appearance. The effects of 9/11 are still being felt today. The US and many other countries have continued to fight terrorism around the world. The rise of new terrorist groups such as ISIS showed that terrorism remained a global threat. In the US, the government has continued to expand security measures to protect against future attacks. Airport security became much stricter, and surveillance programs were increased to track potential threats. The Patriot Act, which gave the government more power to monitor communications and travel, raised concerns about privacy and civil liberties. Despite the hardships, 9/11 also brought out a sense of unity in the US people across the country, came together to support the victims and their families. Monuments and memorials were created to remember the lives lost and the heroes who fought to save others. The National September 11th Memorial and Museum in New York City stands as a place to honor the nearly 3,000 people who died in the attacks. The memorial consists of two large reflecting pools that sit where the Twin Towers once stood. Visitors come from around the world to remember the victims and learn about the events of that day. 9/11 will always be remembered as a day of great tragedy, but also as a day that showed the strength and resilience of the human spirit. The attacks led to lasting changes in US policy and global security, and the emotional scars left by that day continue to affect those who were directly impacted. However, the courage of the people who responded to the disaster, the heroism of the passengers on Flight 93, and the support of millions around the world after the attacks will never be forgotten. The legacy of 9/11 serves as a reminder of the importance of unity, the need to fight hatred, and the value of protecting freedom and peace. If you like this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. To watch more mysterious videos in my channel, click on the videos on the screen now. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to light. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, take care and stay safe.